And welcome, Trophy Kids, presented by Bad News Media. It is the NFL betting preview show, week 3. As
Week
always, I am
three.
your host, Nate. We have our co-host, Michael, today. How are you doing to get, oh, goodness, off to a real world tumble there. How are you
Well,
doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. We had you and I just want to point out we had great week 2. We both went and saw our teams play live in games. I think you and I both thought we were going to lose, and we came out victorious. Let's go.
I am still shocked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers managed to win that Lions game, but I'm not mad about it. In the NFL, it's all about winning. All wins look
It's
the
all about
same
it.
at the end of the season. Nobody remembers how you did it in earlier weeks, but man, I don't know if my Bucks really deserve to come out of Detroit with that win.
Hey, it happens. Who cares? You
I
leave.
Yeah, I will give credit to Detroit Lions. Their indoor stadium pretty nice. It's the second time I've been there. A nice atmosphere, not overly hostile.
That's good.
Which is good. Then again, we're also not a division rival, and it's always nice to have Super Bowls sitting in your back pocket for when anybody starts, you know, talking up a little bit there. What am I worried about with this franchise?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably self-aware. They have a lot to be confident right now, but I mean, I think they're just right now. I would imagine I've never got to experience what they're experiencing, but they're probably just so thankful that they're just happy.
Oh, 100%. That is the overarching theme in Detroit is that is a
Mhm.
fan group that is just happy to be in the conversation right
They're
now.
down.
There are no expectations, and I'm down for that type of fan group. I will also say that the football season, I love it. It's my happiest time of year. But man, side note, because this isn't the college football show, I need these college football games to stop playing on Friday night, like good ones, because as guys who tend to watch just about everything, it's ruining the one night a week that I have to connect with some other people outside of my apartment. AKA, it's mostly date night, and we're getting to the point where that's coming to bite me in the butt here, where it's, Thursday night football. College has got good games on Friday, full day Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We need a little break here.
I do know what you mean. They are spreading out to a point where it's like, well, I can't do anything that night, can't do anything that night, and it's just like I got to wait till Tuesday.
Yep. Till action starts. And then that's more of on the background so I can see some hilarious football because
Yep.
you are not a action fan, man. Will you see some cartoon level silliness playing out on a field during action on Tuesdays? But nonetheless, we have some NFL games to talk about. I'm going to tell you right now, folks, there are some teams that have dug themselves a deep hole. We have a lot of 0-2 teams that we're going to get to here that had playoff aspirations. And we know that's getting harder and harder to make the NFL playoffs when you start 0-2. But we start with the Giants Browns and just a lovely game. There's a handful of these games on this weekend slate where I'm like, oof, we might be setting football back a couple decades here. And this might be one of them. Browns come in favored at 6.5 over under 39. What do we make of this game? We're going to call it.
This is a game I love it for the Browns. I'm going to be honest with you. The Giants, they're a disaster. Don't let the Daniel Jones decent game last week fool you. Washington defense is bad. It's bad, bad. Okay. The Browns, I mean, they're going to cause havoc, just mayhem for Jones. He's going to get hit way more than he was hit last week. It's going to be more like a week 1 showing, in my opinion, for the Giants. So yeah, give me the Browns here. I just think pure defensive domination. I'm not even really even factoring in the Browns offense, right? Because it's not very good. So it just Jones will lose it. There'll be turnovers. That's what's going to happen.
I'm with you. I have it highlighted for the Browns as a game that I will end up putting money on. Do I love a 6.5 for the Browns? No, but you hit it right on the head. Why would I feel even remotely confident in putting money on the Giants in this game? That offense, we've talked about it for now 2 seeming weeks. There's one weapon on that entire offense. And if he can't get going, they got nothing going for them. So I'm with you. I am also on the Browns in that one. From there, we move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Broncos. Line is at 6.5, over under 41.5. Oof, man, it's always good to have a win, like we were saying earlier, but this is another game where do I want to bet the Bucks? Yes. Am I nervous about betting the Bucks right now? A little bit because the Broncos defense has been a little bit better, but at the end of the day, this team just has a knack for pulling out wins when they haven't shouldn't be able to. Bo Nix has looked terrible. What are your feelings here?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but wake up, Nate. I mean, I know it's early. People, there's a lot of bold things come early, but people are talking about the Bucks being serious, and I think you definitely know. You've seen it. You don't want to talk about it, but you've seen it. Um, I think it might be a little early, but I do think that they're going to be a good team. But we're not going to get to it yet, but that New Orleans team might be good too. Um,
Oh yeah.
so just pointing that out. But yeah, I like the Bucks here. Just Broncos, you said Bo Nix struggling. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, has a rookie quarterback thrown a touchdown yet? I don't think so. Um, so that's kind of weird. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I haven't. Jaden's only ran him in. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's been a rookie quarterback throwing a touchdown yet. You got to assume that might happen. I don't know if it's gonna happen in this game, but still, I think the Bucks are they might be a good team. I like what I've seen so far, Nate.
I'll feel a lot better when we get a little healthier. Like right now, I'm
Yeah,
still a little nervous. I'm a little trigger shy right now for pulling it on the NFL. College, I'm ready to kind of start throwing some bets in there. The NFL, till we get through week 3, I just feel like so many of these teams, I don't really have a good grasp for. There are signs that I really offensively love my Bucks. I think offensively we are heading in the right direction. Liam Cohn is a fantastic OC utilizing our players. What like you the fact that Chris Godwin wasn't being utilized more in the slot last year was a travesty, and we've rightly identified that's his natural position. He looks good there. Running game, there's some the young guys are stepping up. Like there's pieces, there's dudes here. It's just defensively. I need them to get a little bit healthier before I really start to take any like this is a serious team going, but we shall see. Off to the game that will set football back 2 decades. The Chargers Steelers line is at 1.5, over under 36. You've talked about it. We talk about it every year, how we do not want to see this Steelers team in the playoffs, and seemingly every year they're right there. Here's a fun fact for you right now. The Steelers are the third team in the Super Bowl era to start 2-0 without a touchdown scored in their game offensively. They have not scored a touchdown yet, and they are 2-0 in this league. But we have two teams that are going to want to run the ball in this game for sure. That's why we're sitting at a pretty low total. What do you make of this game right here?
yeah. I mean, you said it's gonna be a run show. There's no doubt about it. You gotta. The only thing I will point out is last week. I swear this always happens to this guy. George Pickens gets more big plays called back than any receiver I think I've ever seen. He had two. One was a touchdown, then the other was another massive play. So maybe they're looking to get Pickens involved a little bit, but I do agree. It's just going to be a run show. I like the Steelers' run defense better, although I like the Chargers' running weapons better. Um, ultimately, though, I hate betting on them because I don't want them to win, but I think I'm going with the Steelers.
We're in agreement on that one. Like, while the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins, we talked about how great it is that he's sort of had a resurgence. A stat I was very surprised of because you would have think a man like LaDainian Tomlinson would be the record holder of this, but most rushing yards through 2 games in Chargers history right now. And J.K. Dobbins, he's hitting some
Wow.
nice little runs. But it all comes down to which defense do I trust more. And Herbert's ankle, I know he's gonna play, but I don't love a quarterback when you're relying so much on the run game against the Steelers defense that can get after you,
Yeah.
having a bit of a banged up ankle. Not something I want to put my money on. I am going Steelers as well in this game. Texans Vikings line is at 2, over under 46. Texans are the favorite. I have got to give it to this Texans coaching staff. I mean, to go and get a win against the 49ers with no TJ Hawkinson, no Addison, Justin Jefferson's getting injured early in the game, and Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback is absolutely fantastic. But you are running into the young Texans team that just has dudes. Like, you look at that
Yep.
roster, and there are just guy after guy after guy at every position. We're going, oh, that's a pretty solid player. Oh, that's another pretty solid player. Where is the weak link on that team? But it's still early in the week, or it's early in the season. I want to, get too far ahead of it. But what do you make of a game of this magnitude with these two teams in Minnesota?
Yeah, this should be a good game. But you said, dude, I mean, the Texans team, it's stacked.
It's
It's
incredible.
it's an awesome team. I mean, just Nico Collins is just a monster. I mean, the way he runs, I mean, he's just a physical freak. I, they're stacked all over the place. I mean,
You know what's funny in all these conversations too? Like when we talk about it, when I hear other people talk about it, it takes so long to get to the fact that they still have Diggs on that roster. Like we talk
oh
about
yeah,
everybody else they have in that wide receiving core, and it's like, oh, they have this guy and that guy. Oh, they have the Joe Mixon at the running back position, even though he got injured in that Bears game. But then we finally mentioned Diggs. It's like 6 dudes you list off in almost every
oh,
conversation before we even get to Diggs is on the roster.
oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, elite left tackle. I mean, they're the team is it's stacked. Going into last season, Diggs was no question a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, yeah,
It's
it's
incredible.
insane. Yeah, it really is. So I just think, like you said, the Vikings are dealing with a lot of injuries. Everyone's going down and stuff. We have seen Darnold have hot starts to seasons before. So I like the Texans here. I'm actually a little bit surprised by this line. I think it'd be a little bit bigger, but that's kind of why I'm getting all the Texans probably right now before it moves.
I'm with you. I think there'll be, some movement on this as we get closer to game day, but I'm kind of more in the Texans camp. A game I will be betting. Eagles Saints line is at 2.5 over under 49.5. And this is the team we have to have a conversation about because the New Orleans Saints, everything is going right at this point. This team is outperforming expectations by a mile, and an Eagles team that is underperforming, I think, expectations by a mile. But you have a doofus and a head coach in Sirianni down there in Philadelphia. Um, with this Saints team versus this Eagles team, where are you kind of looking at matchup wise? What do you have a feeling on this one?
I mean, the Saints, you're right. They're just Derek Carr's playing great. Alvin Kamara is like just back. He's so involved in the passing game, run game. He's just dual threat, just just humming along. Defense is just nasty. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just really good. They've honestly had a really good defense for like the past 5 years, but this one just feels a little different. I don't know why. They just seem to be just the whole team just seems to be motivated in a different way. And then you got Philly coming in. What a disaster! What a collapse! My goodness, I lost a lot that involved in that, but it doesn't matter because I just love seeing the Philadelphia disaster. It was hilarious. Are you like they went from just like, well, this is our game, and like just snapping fingers. Wow, we just completely lost this game. That was just a just unbelievable collapse, and I'm glad it happened. It made me laugh. And I think it's gonna kind of continue to happen here. I just don't see. I think Hurts is gonna struggle to pass the ball. Obviously, they're gonna make them run. Philly does have a good run game, but just that Saints defense is they're nice. So give me the Saints.
I'm with you. You hit on all those key points, and when we look at it statistically, it is shocking how good this Saints team has been, I think, so far, especially on the offensive line standpoint. I walked away from week one going, that's just the Carolina Panthers. Like, I'm not putting too much stock. Let's see what they could really do against, a Cowboys front that is pretty good. Through 2 games, they have the second lowest rate of pressures per dropback allowed. They are fifth in intended air yards per attempt, using a lot of play action, which is good. Defensively, you talked about it getting nasty. They have allowed the fourth fewest amount of drives to end in a score so far this season. Second fewest yards per rushing attempt. Like these dudes are coming up, hitting you. They are playing physical. They are doing what you need to do to win football games. And when you look at the other side of the football for the Eagles, my God, pass rushers are important, aren't they? It would be nice
Yeah,
if you had somebody who could come off the edge a little bit. Currently ranked 28th in pressure rate per drop back in the NFL right now. Fifth most in percentage drives that ended in a score against the Eagles defense. First in yards given up per rush right now. Oof, my goodness. Yeah, it's a problem. And I think, stems from the fact that, like, while I like Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, his defensive philosophy is a lot of like bend, don't break, death by 1,000 paper cuts.
yep,
That can only really work if in high leverage situations you can get after the quarterback. If when the field shrinks, you can play well in the red zone. They are not doing that right now. So things are it's going bad.
yep.
This is a spot where I do think, the Saints continue to roll. I saw what I wanted to see in that Cowboys game. I have placed a wager on the Saints at 2.5, and I'm buying that right now.
I like it.
Packers Titans line is at 2.5 over
Oof.
under 38. Titans are the favorite. I swear, every time I turn on my TV right now, Will Levis is doing something stupid, which I guess
Yeah,
makes sense for a guy who puts mayonnaise in his coffee and eats bananas the way he does. But this man, you want to talk about a dude not nearly good enough for trying to make the kind of plays he's making out there. I think it's also funny too because we had that clip on Hard Knocks this year of Saban going, "Yeah, I never get negative in front of a quarterback in front of the team." Meanwhile, you have Canahan just being like, "Yeah, our quarterback's an idiot. I don't know what to tell you right now." this
yeah.
this is he is throwing them out of games because they should be 2-0, I think, right now.
Literally from like week one, just throwing Will under the bus. But I mean, probably not the best way to go about it, but he's not wrong. I'll say
Nope.
that. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing out there. Just calm down. Try not to make a play out of everything. But yeah, this team struggles. And then you got Packers. Malik Willis, give him credit. He won. That's cool. Didn't really do a lot. this is just a bad game. I would probably go with the Pack, but I don't even think I have a play on this game.
Yeah, I like the way the Packs can kind of control. I don't have a play on this, but the way they can control games because they are currently second in yards per rushing attempt right now. The offensive line's playing, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
Love may go. I mean, there's some speculation that he could play in this game. I think the betting markets will be a good way to signal that because somebody will get a hold of that information before the rest of the public does. So watching these lines move is a good way to indicate that. I don't have a ton here. I want to back the Titans, but I'd rather just stay off of it because I don't know what Will Levis is. Like if Will Levis just doesn't play like an idiot, that you have two covers with the Texans so far through 2 weeks. And like this is a team that plays good defense and like the offense isn't great, but it's good enough to win in the NFL. But this kid is just there are times where you can see what got him to the NFL from a skill set standpoint. You go, oh, that's pretty good. And then
Yeah.
it's just like what are we doing? This isn't how you play winning football games. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm just staying away from it. I like because I want to bet the Titans, but I'm not locking my money up on a Sunday with the Tennessee Titans. Chicago Bears versus the Colts. Line is at 1.5, over under 43.5. Colts are the favorite. We've already got fathers posting clips on the internet. Ruben Doonesday's father today was posting clips of his son wide open in the end zone, and
Oh man.
only we do.
I did not know that. That's hilarious. I love when things like that happen. That's funny.
he, he tweeted out a clip today with no context, and then he had to tweet out later after the internet had run with it for a couple hours. Some lame excuse, but it was a funny one to say the least.
Yeah.
Um, the Bears are an interesting predicament here.
Yeah.
Williams is clearly struggling. The game just looks a little too fast, but he's a rookie at the end of the day. Going against the Colts defense that just plays a lot of cover three, doesn't want to kind of, adjust from that base. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, you said it. Caleb is struggling. The offensive line is terrible. Like it's
Mhm.
bad. It's really bad. Which kind of, I think what they need to do, which is kind of counterintuitive to what I just said, is I think they need to start running the ball more. Even with that bad offensive line, I don't think DeForest Buckner's playing for the Colts this weekend, so that should help things out a little bit. Um, but yeah, I didn't know about that video. That's really funny. I love when that happens. It's hilarious when parents do that when their kids are professional athletes. Gosh, that's the best. And then you get Anthony Richardson last weekend. Didn't go great. Obviously, turned the ball over a lot. He didn't rush enough. I was like, dude, you need to take off 4 attempts. Just let's go run. I mean, that's
Yep.
that's what you are like best at. I know you get injured doing it, but I mean, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to try to win. Um, I think I'm going to go with the Colts here with a little bit of a bounce back after last week's disappointment. The Bears, man, that I just hate their offensive line. Caleb is just running for his life, just pretty much right from the snap.
You want to hear a really terrible stat for this Bears offense right now?
Let's hear it.
Completed air yards per completion, 2.4 yards
Ooh,
on average. Dead last. Could you
that's not good.
imagine through 2 games averaging 2.4 yards per completion?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Jaden's much higher, so I can't imagine.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think he was literally next to Caleb, but
Probably.
dead last right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. They highlighted it in the broadcast on that Sunday night game that when the offense is designed to get the ball out of his hands quick and he's playing in the system, it does roll. The
Yeah.
problem is you can't do that every single snap. Like, and then you get the guy in Caleb Williams who wants to be more creative, hold on to the ball just a tad bit longer, and you don't have the offensive line. Like that's just a learning curve thing to me, though. That's just he's 2 years or 2 games into his NFL career. He's still learning his offensive line. He's still learning what he can and cannot get away with in the
Right.
NFL. Like I think there's a lot of people that prematurely are hitting the panic button. I've seen the example thrown around a lot. Like this is what Patrick Mahomes would look like if he had to start, right away. And I don't disagree with that. Like he got to sit a little bit, but he's also a little bit better than Caleb.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
yeah, but I get the point as far as like he's 2 games into his career. He's still learning, the speed of the game, what he can and cannot get away with. His ball placement's still good, 15th and on percentage target throws, so he's still accurate with the football. It's just he's holding on the ball a little bit longer in some situations than he probably should, and I think that's something he'll figure out. People just need to relax on some of these things
Yep.
this early into a career. A career that has taken a bit of a detour is Bryce Young. Panthers take on the Raiders. Line is at 5, over under 40. I guess before we get to the game, what do you make of the Bryce Young situation? Because there have been a lot of takes flying around the internet this week in general.
I mean, it definitely sucks for him, but it was definitely warranted. That needed to happen, clear as day. I mean, yeah, it's not working out for him. I feel bad for him. I mean, it is funny because it's the internet. That all these Raising Cane's clips because he did all that stuff with Raising Cane's. It's unfortunate, but whatever. He made a lot of money, and I think he'll stay in the league a little bit. But I can't blame him for doing it. And I think we're going to see actually quite a difference in their offense. Um, I think they'll. I was literally probably going to come on here if Bryce Young was playing this weekend and say, I think if they continue with Bryce Young for this entire season, this might be the worst NFL team we've ever seen in history. I'm, I'm not
Yeah.
kidding. I think they were in the running for that. But now you have Andy Dalton coming there. I know he's old, but he's very competent. He'll be able to run the offense much better. I think he played a few games last season, right?
Yeah.
And he was competent from what I
Yeah.
recall.
He's a
Um,
professional quarterback at this point. Like
exactly.
he just he's not, top of the heap, obviously. He's backing up Bryce Young at this point in his career, but he's a professional
Right.
quarterback. You put him in, he knows where to go with the football and how to protect it for the most part.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I think we're going to see this offense do a lot better now. And then they're going up with the Raiders here. Big win for the Raiders. Big win. Honestly, I was stunned by that. Antonio Pierce needed that after the week
Yeah.
one debacle. So, yeah, that was a huge win for them. But I think, I don't know. I think I might ride with Dalton here. I think I'm taking the Panthers.
I think I'd be following you right into that. I'm a little nervous about that defense, but offensively, I do think they get a bump. I I think we're seeing such a harsh reaction as far as like people really not harsh reaction in the fact of like people being like Bryce Young stinks, but people coming to Bryce Young's age because coming to his side. My goodness, I can't speak today. Good day to be hosting a podcast. Am I right, folks? I think we're seeing a lot of people come to his defense because he's a nice guy. Like he seems like a nice guy, and he almost looks childish out there, but
Yes.
that was always the problem was Bryce Young. He didn't have the incredible athleticism Kyler Murray has to be able to spam and like succeed in this league. He's small in stature. You were going to have to like maximize the anticipation and the accuracy and all these things to even have a shot. He was always going to have an uphill battle, and he was going to a team with one of the worst rosters in football.
Yeah.
So like this was always destined to fail, in my opinion. If he was on a different team, would he maybe be a little bit better? Yeah, maybe, but I don't think once again this guy has the ability. Not everybody has the ability to play in the National Football League. At some point in everybody's life, your body and your, physical ability limits you from playing this sport, whether that's in Pee Wee, whether that's in high school, whether that's in college, whether that's in the NFL and 15 years into an NFL career. At some point, your physical measurements and ability prevent you from playing this sport. And this is the point in which Bryce Young, I think, is, he just physically can't play in the NFL, like at a
I
high
would agree.
level. Could he
Yeah.
start somewhere else and be better? Yeah, sure. But like, that's not the question at hand right now. Could he be a backup? Yeah, sure. But once again, it's the physical measurables that I think are what set it apart here. And he isn't there, unfortunately.
Nope, he's not. Bad trade.
Um, Yeah, I don't really have much on the game as a whole. I think that the number is getting a little crazy because like I'm with you. Like as long as the offense performs even just a smidge better, which I think it will under Andy Dalton, I'm not a buyer into this Raiders team. Max Crosby saves this team week in and week out. Maybe he saves them again here, but at 5, I'm kind of feeling the Panthers. Dolphins Seahawks line is at 4.5, over under 41.5. Geno Smith, step on down. This man has put this Seahawks
Yep.
offense on his back. He has been fan freaking tastic so far. Um, and he's doing it with a bad offense line. We want to talk about all these quarterbacks that are struggling
Mm-hmm.
because of their offense line. Look at Geno Smith. His average pocket time right now is 2.1 seconds. And yet he still has an 81% on target throw rate, ninth in the NFL. He's virtually top 10 in every meaningful statistic right now. It's only through 2 weeks, but he is getting it done week in and week out. Now going against a Dolphins team who will be out without Tua, as we know. We kind of have talked about that. What do you make of this game in the Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, the Seahawks so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Gino's been killing it. He's looked great. I mean, he's looked a lot of quarterbacks haven't looked very good this year. I mean, he looked like the top three quarterbacks so far this season. So yeah, I like Seattle. I like him in this game. It's a shame what's happened in Miami. You just have all those weapons that are so fun to watch, but if you don't have a quarterback that can really dynamically get them the ball, it makes them just way less fun to watch, way less, just it's just a bummer to whatever happens there. I mean, I already heard people were saying like, well, send Bryce down there. I'm like, I don't know. Um, Probably wouldn't do that. But it just sucks because it'll make them just way less fun to watch because that team is so fun to watch. But it'll just be way different without having an elite quarterback there. So yeah, I think they're pretty much going to struggle from here on out until Tua, maybe comes back or not. So yeah, give me Seattle here because that team is rolling, and right now I think things are just going to start to crumble a little bit in Miami, unfortunately.
I agree with that sentiment all too well, to be
Yeah,
honest. 49ers, Rams, man, the Rams, just talking about a team
yeah,
that was up early in this
yeah.
season. Lines at 6.5, over under 43.5. I have been seeing Matthew Stafford's name thrown around a lot in those hypothetical trades, which is an interesting dynamic. I mean, he's at the very back end of his career, and the Rams feel like they need a reset. So could you potentially trade him away and just tank the season away? Yeah, sure, maybe, but that's not the Sean McVay way. He wants to be competitive. He wants to win football games. He's one of the brightest minds in the league, going up against one of the other brightest minds in the league in Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers team. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, I think this is a game where it's like that team is too injured, unfortunately. I think the Rams they're gonna struggle to move the ball, I think. I mean, I know Matthew Stafford, great quarterback. He's been around forever. He could probably find ways to, get the ball into people's hands, but still, I mean, you're missing your top two guys like that. I mean, they're one of the best duos in the NFL. The Niners, they're also injured.
Yeah.
Debo's probably not playing. McCaffrey's obviously not playing, but they're always getting injured and they're always still good. So I'll go the Niners here because also the Rams, they're not going to have any sort of home field advantage here. So yeah, give me Niners.
Nope. And this was the year I said in the preseason, like, I think the wheels are about to fall off the bus for the 49ers due to injuries, but that is later in the season when the margins for errors become so much smaller and things like the playoff situation and things like that. This is not one of those games. So I am with you on that. Lions Cardinals. This is a fun game, I think, because I've talked about the fun factor of the Cardinals, and I think that still holds true. Like, I'm not necessarily bought into that they're going to be like a very good competitive football team through the entirety of this season, but they're going to be a very fun football team. Their volatility measurements, I feel like, are off the charts here. This line is at 3. Lions are the favorite over under 51.5. Do you have anything for this game? Because I've been going back and forth a lot on this one in my brain, and I don't know if I have a pick for this, but I might have one on Sunday.
I mean, everyone probably just wants to pick the over. How can you not? I mean, it just.
Yeah.
I know the number is huge, but I probably will pick the over just because I want to root for the over because I think could be just a really fun game. The Cardinals, they're high flying. The Lions are capable of being high flying. One thing I want to mention is James Conner. He's a monster, dude, and no one really talks about it because he's not flashy. He doesn't really have like a super flashy style of play. I just, very rare that this happens. The Steelers made a mistake. They should have kept that guy.
Yep.
Big mistake.
And that is
You
not
don't
something we
see that
generally see.
happen.
Yeah. We see the
Yeah.
Steelers cut them when their football lifespan is over.
Yep. They almost always make good roster decisions, but that was a poor decision because James Conner's a monster. I actually lean Cardinals. I don't think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a really close game. And I'm betting the over because I just want to root for it.
I'm kind of with you there. That may be my move on Sunday. I'll tweet something out on our socials if I do end up having a pick there. But yeah, I think Johnson, the coordinator for the Lions, is just getting a little too cute with it. Like he's trying a lot of things right now because like I get why they threw the ball as much as they did against the Bucks. It's a banged up secondary. You're missing 3 starters in that secondary from week 1. Like you're gonna throw the ball a lot, but it just feels like a lot. Like the 2 games I've watched of the Lions, the offense just doesn't seem it's clicking as much. They're trying a lot of new things. Like I think they're
Yeah.
gonna start to get back to kind of like the good style of football, but they're in this kind of experimental stage because why not? It's early in the season. Let's see what's working, what's not, and then throw out, the bad. So I'm
Yep.
with you there. Ravens, Cowboys. The Ravens have dug themselves a hole because they don't care about preseason football, folks. Let's just call it what it is. This is a team that doesn't care about, just want to jokes around in the preseason because they start 0-2. And here's a nice little stat for everybody that for teams starting 0-2. This will apply to the Bengals as well because they're sort of in that camp. It's a small sample size, but since the NFL playoffs expanded to 14 teams in 2020, 32 franchises have started 0-2. Only two of those teams have made the playoffs, Cincinnati Bengals and Houston Texans. We expand that out, though, since 1990 when there was a 12-team playoff. Only 12% of teams that start 0-2
Wow.
have made the playoffs. Only three teams have ever won a Super Bowl after starting 0-2. The Cowboys in 93, the Patriots in 01, and the Giants in 07. So even though it's early in the season, even though that, there's logically you're thinking, hey, there's a lot of runway here for this team. It is incredibly hard to dig out of that hole. And I do think a factor in this is sort of how they approach the preseason because we've watched this Ravens team. It's not that they're a bad team. They're just off. Timing is off offensively. Defensively, they're out of position at times. And that comes from reps, that comes from practice, that comes from running things at full game speed, which you don't always get in a training camp. It's why live bullets are important. That's my my theory on the Ravens, but they start 0-2 to the and they play the Cowboys this week. Spread is at 1. Any thoughts on this game or team in general?
Yeah, I mean, you said it with the Ravens that, and not even worse. I mean, they have the Cowboys, then they have the Bills, and then they have the Bengals. I mean, could you imagine the Ravens going 0-5? I mean, I couldn't, but geez, that would be wild. And the only thing I will say is, both, the Ravens and Bengals, they're kind of lucky each other are 0-2, and they're lucky that they still each get to play Pittsburgh twice and everything. So that will maybe help them. So, but yeah, I mean, they obviously have dug themselves in a hole here. Um, this is going to be an interesting game. I can't get a feel for it because Dallas, oof, they looked bad.
Who offensively is a weapon for them outside of CeeDee Lamb? Like their run game's a joke.
Yeah, pretty much
And
no
from a
one.
passing standpoint, like, is there a single guy that can win one-on-one or get open if CeeDee Lamb isn't producing? I don't know if there is.
No, I really don't think there is, not consistently, or not someone you can rely on at all. Yeah, it's a tough game to bet on. I lean Ravens just because I think that coaching staff's going to have them super ready. They're like they realize the stress that we cannot go 0-3. So I lean Ravens, but it's a tough call here.
That's the other point about, why the preseason is so important. Just look defensively on that coaching staff, what the Ravens lost. DC is now the coach in Seattle. Defensive line coach is now the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. Defensive backs coach is now the DC for the Titans. Like you lose three majorly important coaches to your defensive staff. You got a guy trying to figure it out on the fly early in the week, and then you got that schedule at the start of the week. Like this
Yeah.
was a team that, wasted some opportunities, aka that Chiefs game where it was right there, but you mess around in the preseason, you're on your X's and O's, attention to detail starts to slip a little bit. You miss some opportunities and you're starting 0-2. All right, before we got cut off there, the Ravens are looking at the 0-3 barrel, potentially 0-5 if things go really off the rails here. So yeah, not overly great in Baltimore right now, I would say for Ravens fans. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs Falcons night game for Sunday Night Football. Lines at 3, over under 46.5. Before we get to this game, did you see Mel Kiper today on Get Up talking about how they should get rid of too high safety coverage? They should just ban it in the NFL.
Uh, I saw tweets about it with a video, tagged to the tweet. I didn't take the time to actually watch the video. I just took the time to just read what it was about, and I was just like, "Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard."
The absolute dumbest. I like. It's not even the most prevalent use of coverage right now. Cover 3 is still way more utilized than cover 2 in the NFL, but nevertheless, why let's just dumb the game down. Offenses can't figure out something here, so let's just get rid of it altogether. Why not?
Yeah, like what a crazy reaction! Like, I mean, offenses, they're still throwing the ball just fine. I mean, just wait, just wait. They'll be okay.
Yeah. I also love how he tried to treat this like the cover 2 is a novel coverage concept, as if the Tampa 2 defense wasn't made famous in the early 2000s or the Steelers back in the 70s using it. Like, no, this is just a new phenomenon that people are using a lot of to hinder, teams like the Chiefs and other organizations from not just gashing them up and down the field. Like, it's just the dumbest thing. I think this goes
Been
more
around
back.
forever.
Yeah. I think it goes more in fact, and Tom Brady's been leading the charge of this of like there's more of a crisis in quarterback development than there is like dysfunctioning offenses. Or I think it's two things. It's, quarterbacks and their development, I think, has been hindered a little bit, especially at the college level. And I see it all the time in the college level because you have all these head coaches and coordinators are system guys. Like they're not coaches anymore. They're just, we're running this system regardless of personnel, if you fit it or you don't fit it. And the ability to like actually coach players and develop them and adjust schemes and be flexible has been so lost that guys are showing up to the NFL having only played one system and only being able to really succeed in one system. And then they get to the NFL, and there are coaches in the NFL. We've seen this definitely hit where like guys are like, well, I'm just running my
Oh
system.
yeah.
Wink Martindale's a great defensive mind who's now in the not great defensive mind, but a great guy example of like why he's no longer in the NFL. It's because all he does is blitz. He doesn't change his defensive concepts, and we've seen it with coordinators and how they're not flexible enough to change. And I think that's more of it than like all of a sudden cover two safeties are just the cover two scheme is working so well. I think it's more that than that. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Yeah, the college coach, it's pretty much it's all system.
Yeah.
And if they don't fit their system, they'll just bring someone else in. It's pretty much how it works now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. God forbid we get a guy into a program and develop him over a couple courses of years and be flexible in our ideologies. Yeah, no, definitely nothing there. But nevertheless, we got a game to talk about. Chiefs, Falcons. Falcons getting themselves a nice little impressive win. Kirk Cousins looking a little bit better after we were all wondering the effects of that injury. Still not perfect, but better. And you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 2-0 to start the season, who are rolling right along. But I do think there are some cracks, especially offensively for that team and defensively. They're not a perfect picture of a team just yet. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, I mean, great comeback there for the Falcons. Great game-winning drive there for Cousins. He's got a lot of game-winning drives. I mean, there a lot of people like to, myself kind of included, we like to drag on Kirk, but he's got a lot of comebacks in his career. Yeah, that was a huge win for them. And I mean, just like carving over like Darnell Mooney, like no disrespect to Darnell Mooney, but I was just like, wow, like what's going on here? And then Chiefs, they're rolling along, but they're dealing with some injury issues here. Pacheco's going to be a big loss, I think. And Kelsey, we're seeing, last game is more kind of a decoy kind of guy out there than anything else. So we'll see how involved Kelsey gets throughout the rest of the season here. But I lean Chiefs just because Sunday night game. We've seen Chiefs in prime time. They are away for once in prime time. I'm not saying they get all the calls, but they get good calls. But I
I
still
mean,
just think
assistant coaches
here
are
I'll
now
take
apparently
Mahomes.
allowed to call timeouts
Yeah,
on the sideline in games.
I mean it's unbelievable.
It's
It's
every
unbelievable what's
week.
going on here. Yeah, there's exceptions to the rules every week it seems like with the Chiefs. But yeah, I'll take Mahomes in prime time over Cousins in prime time, mine personally.
Yeah, I think that's a good point on the Travis Kelsey part. I think it's more on the offense as a whole. I think they are missing Hollywood Brown there because, like, Xavier Worthy, sure, he had that great, game one, 3 touches, 2 touchdowns. You're never going to repeat that performance again. But, like, and with Pacheco
Right.
now out, it's running back by committee. The passing weapons are not, there's an adjustment period, I think, for Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen this every year where, like, the weapons are a little down early in the season, but as soon as he starts to get more time with these guys, um, they do start to roll a little bit. I think you hit on Darnell Mooney there. I think that's the Falcons' best attribute right now is the fact that they don't get locked in on one guy. A guy like Mooney can have himself a great game. Kirk Cousins will spread the ball around more. He doesn't just kind of lock in and try to get one guy going, which we see so many teams do nowadays. And the Chiefs are a team that, at least through 2 data points, have decided to just take away your best weapon and try to live elsewhere. And I don't know if you can do that against this Falcons team because they have so many weapons, because they have so many guys that can contribute, because Kirk Cousins looks to spread the ball around and doesn't try to just feed one guy and get him going early. It's weapons by committee in Atlanta right now. Defensively for the Chiefs, I'm also a little worried that they can't manufacture a lot of pressure outside of Chris Jones, and Spags all of a sudden wants to move him to the outside on high leverage downs, which I don't know. Spags knows more football than I will ever know.
Yeah.
He's a great defensive mind, but Chris Jones moving to the edge on key downs feels like some mismanagement of his talents because getting pressure up the middle, especially against a guy like Kirk Cousins, feels pretty important. And when you move him out to the edge, he's a little less effective at it. But yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at.
especially coming off that injury. I mean, Chris Jones has pretty much made like a career out of rushing up the middle.
Yeah, this man has made generational wealth doing it, and now we're starting to kind of spread him around and move him around. It just I don't know. It feels a little odd, but Spags is one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL, so I guess I can't, rip on the guy too much there. But it just from an observant standpoint, it feels like production is falls off a little bit, and we'll see if we see that in this game. Like I haven't made a bet on this one yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if they can't. On third down, get pressure on Kirk because of his willingness to spread the ball around and just go to the open man if the Falcons have some success offensively here against the Chiefs defense. Monday Night Football, though, we've got a dual Monday night game. I will be at one of these in the Commanders Bengals. But first, we talk Jags Bills. Line is at 5, over under 45.5. Josh Allen looks like the MVP of the league so far through 2 weeks. This man is incredible. He just does Josh Allen things week in and week out. So much new on this Bills team, and yet they continue to just move forward and are a wrecking ball. They take on the personality of their quarterback and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, it feels like we have been talking about this every year as far as like, when is Trevor Lawrence going to be the guy that should be, as advertised? He's not. Doug Peterson and him seem to just be off, as a combined duo there.
Yeah.
It just never feels right in Jacksonville. Like I feel like every year we're having this conversation of like, man, there's potential, but it just never feels like it clicks or is right. I don't know if you're going to have much success here on Monday night against the Bills, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough get right game for that Jacksonville team because you said it. Like they're a team that kind of brings you in. You're like, wow, this team's good. I'm excited for them, and then they let you down. I mean, that's really what they do. And you go on the other side. I mean, Josh Allen, dude, he's just. I mean, he's not better than Mahomes, but he's more of like a one man team than Mahomes is. I mean, he's just he could do everything. He's a monster. I feel like he's like a machine. Like he's just like he's not even a human. I don't know. He's wild. So I lean Bills here. I'm happy this game is happening at the around the same time as my team's game because I think that might be an ugly one. We'll get there in a second. But yeah, I like the Bills here. I like Josh Allen. I just the Jags. I can't trust them right now.
No, I can't either. The Bills are going to be able to, I think, inflict their will here on the Jags. I have laid a wager on the Bills and taken a position on that side of things. Let's talk about the final Monday night game. Your team, the Bengals are who they will be facing. The line is at 7, over under 47.5. For Bengals fan, this is a great game to get right because the Commanders defense, they can't stop a nosebleed right now. And that is a Bengals offense that we did see, play better than the Chiefs offense last week and have a good game, but it's still not all right there the way you'd want it to be. And for the Commanders, man, tough road game on a Monday night. What are you feeling on this one? It's your team, so I'll kind of let you take it how you like here.
Yeah, I mean it's just what pretty much it's just a tough matchup. My team's going to have a lot of tough matchups this year because we can't cover anyone and we can't rush the passer. I mean, you need one of those things to be good. If both are bad, well, then what are you going to do? Not stop anyone. That's exactly what you're going to do. So yeah, it'll probably be a tough game. One thing I will say, Jaden Daniels, you watch Caleb Williams and you watch Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, it looks like nothing bothers him at all. That guy I'm not saying like he's out there playing like an MVP or even close to anything like that. But if you watch him play, like he doesn't look rattled. He doesn't look like anything really like affects him too much. It's very interesting. But this will be a real test. It's going to be by far his toughest game. I think Trey Hendrickson might feast. Jade's fast, so that might be a little tough. But I do think he's going to feast. I think he's going to eat our offensive line alive. Good game for Chase. I think Higgins is probably coming back. That's going to be a good game for him. I like the Bengals to cover. I like the Bengals kind of as a survivor pick. I really like either one of these Monday night teams as survivor picks. But yeah, I don't see Washington being able to keep up with this team.
Trey is a guy that I feel like flies under the radar from a national standpoint because there are so many good edge rushers. And then you see a game like last Sunday, and everybody who's in the Cincinnati area knows what he can do. But my God, is he so technically sound coming off the edge? And just if you're not on your P's and Q's, he will bully you as a left tackle because he's also strong, got great bend. good with his hands. Like it's impressive to say the least. Um, Bengals fans, there were two things that stood out to me when I was looking at this game, and they're not good stats for your team. Currently, number one in percentage of scores that end in a or drives that end in a score. 62% right now of drives currently end in a score for the Commanders, which I was shocked by, but I haven't been watching them probably as well as I should. And then the second most net air yards per completion. This is what I'm talking about as far as a get right game. And it comes from a pressure standpoint. I think it comes from a defense philosophy standpoint, but like I think the Bengals offense from a pass standpoint needs a game like this where they can either, if they don't show out well here, I mean, great for the Commanders, but oof, man, panic buttons, take them out of the drawer, put them on top of the desk. Things might not be right with Joe Burrow if they can't,
Yeah,
throw the rock around a little bit here and get right from a passing standpoint. From a covering standpoint, I don't know because to your point, Jaden Daniels has looked really nice under pressure. Like he is kind of cool, calm, and collective compared to the other rookies right now. It's a big spot. We know
yeah,
his mobility is a nice little factor here. And I think that mobile, if you use that mobility against the Bengals defense, you can have some success because they can get out of position at times, especially at the linebacker position. So uh, it'll be an interesting game, but I'll be very interested to see how it plays out because if the Bengals can't get right in the spot, oof, man, things could be in trouble long term because this is a game where they should be able to pass the
yeah.
rock.
Yes, absolutely. They should be able to do that pretty easily.
Yeah. All righty. That will do it for week 3. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, nothing really. I like the Texans. That's a play I like this weekend. I like Houston.
Yep. I am on the Texans as well. I took the Saints, like I said, making a play on the Bills here. Might do something with the Sunday night game. We'll see, but I'll tweet it out or I'll send it out on our socials. So make sure you're following there. And as always, peace.